Ethics and Surveyor. This is a brief introduction. What we're going to be doing is looking at the surveyor system, how we complete an ethics form, and hopefully at the end of it give you an idea that it's pretty easy to use, and we can use this in the interim before a much better form of support is available. So click the link, enter the username and password, and off we go. This is our first screen. Welcome to Surveyor. Welcome Surveyor. Thank you very much for the pleasantries. Then we get to some more detailed information, surveys. We click surveys because that's what we're going to be looking at. Then there's one option, University Ethics Committee. Open that. Then you get a choice of 4 with the various areas in our faculty. We can add more to this, that's quite easy to do. We're going to look at sport because I'm the administrator for that. So we open up the form and there it is, and this is what the administrator will see, and there are lots of options, and this is where you can see all the completed forms. So when there is a completed form we'll be able to see a response in there, and what I suggest you do is when you get to this screen just open up a form and go through it so you can see what it's like to actually complete the forms, and we're going to do that now. So read the instructions and then press start. Then enter your name and then enter your email address, and clearly this has to be really important, otherwise you won't be able to find you. Students will get this wrong, and so will some members of staff get this wrong, and it is really frustrating. Then if this is a student or it's a research team, or there's some principal investigator, put that person down. It's important to know the whole research team. Sometimes when we want further information, these people can be really helpful in clarifying issues. Enter a date, and what I would suggest is we really work to strict deadlines here, strict dates, submit by a certain date, give feedback by another date, and there are no late entries at all because there will be lots and lots of people asking for requests. Then put the subject area. The way I've structured this so that each group has got their own link. This is not so important, but it was a way of sorting out one area from another. Then we've got our faculty and the areas. Again, this is for administration purposes, but again the way I've sorted it out with each subject area having their own link, this will be not so relevant for us. So we get to the form, and here comes one of the first important questions, really important question. There's logic built into this, and that is important to know because when you look at the results, if you put not applicable as I have done, then the following questions will appear as though they have been ignored. They've not been ignored if you put one of the other 4 answers, because you're going to have to work through those questions, but that is just to be aware of how the form works. So we go to the title, put the title down, and what I suggest people do when they're completing this form is use the Word version I'm going to be sending on. It comes along with this email, and type it into that. Just type it into the Word form. Much better word processing support with Word, and this will be looked at, and it's nothing worse than having some major typos in your ethics report when you come to get feedback on it, because it does look a touch embarrassing. So there's an outline, rationale, aims, hypothesis, outcomes. That seems an enormous amount to put down in 300 words, and of course the aim is to make the author write in a concise way. However, there is space, if you like, by the fact that the system doesn't cut you down to 300 words to actually put more down if you need to. I think this is a really relevant part of the exercise, in that if you get this bit right, you actually start writing the outcomes, whether it's an article or whatever else is coming from this at this point in the research process, and it should be right at the start, and therefore you're clarifying what you're doing, why you're doing it, so you really know how your research is going to be plodding on really nicely, or accelerating on, even might be right zoom along. Some of these have got, and I've just put this in, some of these have got logic in, so you have to complete the question, and this again is where you put the methods down, but if you don't put anything down, what will happen is that the system will just throw it back to you. You must write something down. It doesn't ask for 300 words, you must write something down. Here you describe how the research is going to be done. So typical, it'd be methods in design, to explain the design for the participants, the instrumentation, procedure, data analysis. Clearly this is following a one line of research, but you build this into the way of research that it's going to be suitable for your line of inquiry. Then if you're looking at an external agency, you put either yes, it hasn't been obtained, and you put the contact person. Again, there's logic built into all of this, so if you put no down, you're going to get fewer questions, and if you put yes down, very important this, given our links with the NHS and other organisations. So next is where we start getting into some of the nitty-gritty of the ethical issues, and you really should be putting down all the potential risks going to participants. We want the consent forms clearly sent somewhere so that we can look at them, and that's really in part of it. So what we will need, of course, is an address, an email address, or some area to put this information with these files so we can look at them. And I think that'll be really useful, because we then get evidence of really good practice for other people to look at, so we won't be kind of reinventing informed consent forms for different groups, but learning from good practice done previously. This is where we put down the risks, that participants be fully informed, and providing lots of details. Again, really the judge of this will be the forms that people are producing for the participants themselves, but it is nice to know how the researchers understand what's going on. Here again we are looking at how we manage our participants, and again I think it would be really important to really spell out what's going on in great depth, so how you're going to safeguard their rights and how taking part in your research is not going to cause them any harm. And it's really advisable that we encourage people to look at this website on the university, so that we are all operating consistently across different faculties. Again, same point about consistency. Looking back to the university central website should give some information about what common practice should be. Again, remaining confidential. It's very important that we follow the Data Protection Act, and it's really important that researchers understand what's going on with regards to this. And that's pretty much it really. What will happen is you can see finish button about to be hit. You have to tell them where you're going to store the data. Really thing is what happens next, and you as the administrator, that's really important, what you do with this completed form. So this is the exciting bit, I'm afraid. It's not afraid, it's exciting. Getting the completed ethics form. I have built up a bit of suspense here. I think this is really and here we go. Right, so you go back to the initial screen you started from, the University Ethics Committee, if you remember. That's pretty much near the start where you logged on. You then go to the ethical approval form for your area. Again, I've picked sport because that's the one we've just completed. And what you'll see now is in responses, it will say one. There's one at the top. Look at the top, ethical approval form sport, the great long link, and then one response. So there's one response, and that was me just a moment ago filling that questionnaire out as I narrated. What we've got now below in reports is a whole series of options, and you can look at all of these, have a play around with them. They they take the data and they give some of it back to you. They're pretty good at looking at the comment reports. But we want one response, so we want the person's completed form. So that's single responses. Click on single responses, and that should, there it is, single responses, which will give, importantly, the date when the thing was submitted. I think that's really important. And so we open that, and there is the person's completed form. There's an ID number, not a name, so protect the person's identity. And there's the date when it's submitted, so it was done at 8:03 on the 21st of January 2014. And that's important because we know exactly when the form was submitted. That's a Word version of the completed form, which people in the PowerPoint version can look at. And so what happens next? You've got a series of links. Those links will open up the questionnaires for people to start using. They've all been checked. You can copy that and send it to people, but just be careful that sometimes Surveyor puts a little space on the end and it sort of throws it out. What I suggest people do is simply learn how to use the questionnaire by looking at the Word version and then looking at the online version, so that you're pretty familiar with how the system works. It's not that hard to use. I don't think it's very hard. Well, we've been using it in sport for about 4 years now, and it's been relatively successful in terms of helping us manage the ethics process. That's it, folks. I hope this was somewhat helpful.